being stuck, right? So I think that they're realizing that they have freedom to pursue this connection, and they're not limited to their adversity and the challenges. They can overcome the challenges. They just need to create balance in their life, right? They need to create balance within this connection as well. And this is another powerful one. So they know between this connection, what is needed is honesty. So they know that honesty, what it says, I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. So it's like they have honesty, integrity, but they're not being honest in this connection. They're not being honest about their feelings. They're probably playing mind games. They're probably not being truthful. They're probably like lingering in your energy, but not really making a move. So they know honesty is needed in this connection if it's going to be able to progress forward. If they're not honest with you, then this connection is going to fall apart. And vice versa, it's you being honest with them as well. But I think that you've been vulnerable and you've been honest about your feelings, and they haven't been honest and vulnerable about their feelings. They've been putting up a shell and covering it and probably not really knowing how they feel. Teeter-tottering between, is this just chemistry or is this a deeper soul connection? Do we align in terms of values and future and compatibility and all of these things? But they know deep within their heart that it wasn't just a physical experience. There was an emotional bond. You guys enjoyed each other's conversation. You guys enjoyed spending time with each other. It wasn't just about physical, right? So they know they need to be honest about the things that are going on in their life, honest about why things happened the way they did, why they made choices the way they did. And both of you guys need to be honest about why you made choices the way you did, and honest about your feelings. That's the biggest thing. They need to be honest about how they're feeling. And I think that they keep denying to themselves how they're feeling and choosing to just push this connection away because it's a lot for them. Especially if they got out of a karmic situation before and it didn't end well and they were in a long-term committed relationship and they got hurt in that connection, then they probably put walls up and it's harder for them to be honest in the situation. And especially if you guys had miscommunication that led to things falling apart, then they probably feel even harder for them to be honest. But they need to get over that, accept the challenges that, yeah, honesty is going to be a challenge. And this is something I need to get over because I have the free will, the freedom to be honest or not if I want this connection to work, right? I have to be honest to the people in my life of how I feel about this connection. I have to be honest in the people in my life about what I want out of my life, right? Not just living for other people, what my family, friends, or whatever think about this connection or think about how I should live my life. I need to be honest to everybody and not just wear a mask and hide from. So yeah, basically honesty is a big one. If they're not honest with themselves, honest with the people around them, honest with you, then nothing's going to progress forward. So they need to get to that point where they take the free will and be honest, because that's the only way they're going to feel this weight lifted off their shoulders, when they're honest, when they start being honest. Because hiding and trying to bury it away and trying to use distractions to numb themselves from feeling what they're feeling is not serving them. They realize that the feelings keep coming up over and over again and they can't run from it, they can't escape it. So blame, this is a big one, and this is what I was feeling as well, is that I feel like they blame you a lot for this connection, that you were the one who left this connection when they wanted to make it work. But I don't think that they see the full picture. Like, you've taken accountability for your actions on a personal level. You probably haven't spoken to them, so they don't know whether you've taken accountability and what you've taken accountability for. But I think that they don't realize how their actions affected you. So for example, if it's that they decided to take space in the midst of something traumatic that happened between the two of you, karmic interference, whatever the case may be, and they decided to just take space and focus on themselves and not care about how that would make you feel, and just say they sent you a message saying that they're taking space, instead of calling you and talking to you about it and really discussing things about how they were feeling and being vulnerable with you, they just chose to be ice cold about the situation. So they didn't realize that it wasn't the space that bothered you, that you weren't taking the space personally, let's say. It was more so that the approach of how they did it, that they had told you that they love you, that they're in love with you, but they were treating you like you were just nobody, like you didn't mean nothing to them. And even if they said that they weren't abandoning you or rejecting you, the fact that they said that, they needed to say that, but because their whole action was abandoning and rejecting and treating you like they were just up and leaving, because they were taking their space, so they were leaving the situation, and that caused not caused you, you chose to react a certain way from an emotional standpoint. So it's like, that's why I say it takes two people to tango, that it's not always one-sided, that yes, you might have left the connection, but there's also actions leading up to why you'd feel like you needed to leave the connection. And especially if you've had trauma of abandonment and rejection from childhood, the slightest feeling of someone rejecting you by taking their space, by not communicating with you effectively, by not calling you and soothing you so that you feel okay about them taking that space, because you might have been the one to say, like, I think you need space, and they were like, no, I don't want to take space. And then they go and they flip it around and they do that, right? So it just could have confused you, and that just made you act from an emotional standpoint because you didn't communicate effectively. So you had no idea what was going on in the connection, or what they were feeling, or if they were just trying to push you away in a nice way because they didn't talk to you about it. They sent you a message like you were just some average Joe, right? So I think that they don't see that perspective. I think that they blamed you for a long time, or maybe they're starting to see that perspective. I don't know if it's that situation, or if another situation, or whatever your situation is that you feel that they need to take accountability for. I don't know if they have, but it says, I accept responsibility for my well-being. So this could be that I accept responsibility for my well-being. So this is talking about basically accountability, right? That maybe they were blaming, and they know that blaming is not going to move this connection forward, and maybe they still have some lingering blame. That's why they're not coming back into union and not coming back to have any sort of communication. But they know that they need to take accountability in order for forgiveness to be had on both parts. They need to let go of the blame in order to move forward. And if they can't do that, then the universe is not going to bring it back into alignment. They can't be honest and let go of the blame and seeing things from all three sides, right? There's always two perspectives, but then there's a third perspective that's basically the truth. And we all have our own truth, but the third perspective is the one that's like neutral, right? So you always have to try to look at things from the third perspective. And then the last card, which aligns and wraps this whole thing up, is trust, right? All blue, fully blue, and like a white purple light around it. And it says, I accept that my inner voice will always guide me correctly. So I guess they know in order for this connection to move forward, and in order to get rid of the idea, the adversity, the challenges that is in their mind, and what other people think of the connection, and other people think of how they should live their life, they know they have to trust their intuition. They have to trust what their gut is telling them. And that's the only way that they're going to be able to move forward. They have to trust that the honesty is going to be received in a place that they have, that the divine feminine has compassion towards them, where they have understanding, where the divine feminine doesn't treat them the way they treated them, with cold and ghosting and ice, right? That the divine feminine just allows them to be vulnerable and is understanding to them and processes whatever their truth is, right? So, and not making them, not attacking them in the sense of like, you did this, you did that. No, that's done. You've grown past that, being reactive and taking things from like allowing yourself to be triggered and then reacting in a defensive way. Like, you've healed that. You've gained the self-awareness to not react from that place. So if they're honest with you, you'll be appreciative towards that and be like, okay, let me process that. You might feel overwhelmed if they're honest with you. You might feel emotional when they're honest with you, but you're not going to react in an ice cold way. You're not going to do the same thing that they did. This is not tat for tat, treating them the way they treated you in a situation. No, you're going to have compassion because you are a divine feminine and you have compassion. So yeah, and they also feel like probably the trust was broken, because if they're blaming you, then they feel that you broke their trust, right? But it's like you have the same perception that you feel like your trust was broken too, but you're choosing to overcome that and forgive and take accountability, right? That's the first step. Once you take accountability, you realize that, okay, like both people broke each other's trust, and they know that trust is not going to happen overnight on both parts. It needs to be taken slow, not going from 0 to 100, really getting to know each other on a friendship level, being friends with each other, not rushing into commitment, so that the trust can be built, and see if the connection is that strong. You know that when you look into each other's eyes, it's fire, it's intense, but you also have to take it slow and build a friendship with each other to really gain a trust and a deep level of care for one another. It's like you already have unconditional love for them because you've known them in past lives. So you already know who they are. But in this 3D world, you guys need to take it slow and develop trust for each other so that this can have longevity towards it. If that's what you want, if that's what they want, you got to develop a trust. Trust is the most important thing. And we only gain trust by being honest and letting go of blame. And that's how forgiveness and trust can be built. So I hope this helps you understand how the divine masculine is feeling towards you, and what their emotions are towards you in their life.